Applying HDRI via VRay Dome produces more detailed results in shadows. And there are even more benefits. VRay Dome Light is an image-based lighting tool, which means that you can use it even without the global illumination enabled, and it will generate a very smooth illumination. The end result is not only better, but also more optimized and faster. I'm going to show you 4 situations where using VRay Dome with HDRI maps. Situation number 1. We have an exterior, we have a big plane where this exterior is placed. We just need an environment that envelope our exterior, that create light, reflections and background. This is the perfect situation for a VRay Dome. So go to texture slot, select VRay HDRI and drag and drop into material editor as instance. Then select HDR map among the maps I already have. Consider that most of these maps are spherical, so I set it up on spherical and start the render. As we can see from this render, we have background, we have the light and perfect reflections, all with just with one VRay light dome. We can rotate the background using the option horizontal rotation. To see how this background changes, we can go to environment, copy this map here as instance, and then enable here the option environment background. Unfortunately, our map appears overexposed in the material editor, so we can play with these 2 parameters in order to display it correctly. I can reduce this 10 times and increase the other option 10 times. Something, as you can see, is becoming visible in the viewport. And then I reduce this 100 times and increase the other one 100 times in order to keep the lighting constant. This moment I can use this option horizontal rotation and I can finally see how this map is placed on our scene. Also in this case the render matches in terms of background, light and reflections, and we can also notice very strong shadows that are not produced by special settings, but it is the HDR map that allows to produce strong shadows. In this case we have a very clear spotlight in the map, even if the sun is passing through the clouds, but the spotlight is very clear. Of course, if we use a cloudy HDR map, we won't get any shadow. Situation number 2. We have an interior and we also have large windows. So we can use an HDR map to add details into the lighting. Also in this case, we can use a VRay Dome. As before, we use an VRay HDRI map into the texture slot, and we can start the render, and this is the result, which is a very great result. We can try different options. We can enable store with irradiance map, which is the same approach if we put this map into the environment rollout, but we can use anyway VRay Dome. And when we have this situation, when we use this approach, we can enhance the details of shadows using VRay portals into the exterior, or we can put these portals inside and enabling the option simple. And this is the result. Of course, the first option is the best one, but requires more time to be rendered. In case we want to reduce render time, we can use the portal option or portal with simple. Situation number 3. We have an object that we want to insert into an exterior environment. In this case, we are using VRay DOM with the VRay HDRI and an object. In case I start the render and I get a very dark result, but I can find this map in the background and material editor, in this case I can just increase the render multiplier option. I could also increase the overall multiplier, but in order to do not get overexposed maps in preview, I just increase render multiplier. And I get this result. What I'm missing now is a plane to cast shadows. For this, I'm going to use matte object. So I create a plane under the object in order to cast its shadows. Right-click VRay properties and I enable matte object, matte for reflections and refractions and the shadows. Start the render. Now these splotches that are created in this area are created by the object and the global illumination. So a way to solve this problem is disabling receive global illumination. And this is the result. Or we do not change this parameter and just disable global illumination. If you remember, we can render with VRay DOM even without the global illumination. So in situations like this where the secondary bounces are not relevant for this scene, we can disable global illumination, considering that a VRay DOM is able to create a very smooth illumination. Situation number 4. We have a VRay DOM with a VRay HDRI. We have a plane as matte object. Start the render, in this case without the global illumination. And we have a problem. The perspective of the object and the perspective of the VRay HDRI are different. We need to project the bottom part of the VRay HDRI on the plane in order to get a perfect match between the two perspectives. This is possible thanks to the ground projection option available into VRay HDRI node. Enable this and start the render. The option ground projection is available only for environment maps. What we are getting in this area is the background behind the matte object. So we can solve this problem using a simple infinite plane, or we can create a huge plane changing the length and width of this plane. And this is the final result, projecting this map on a plane. This option allows to get a perfect match between the perspective of the object and the perspective of the background. We have some options that can help us to perfect this projection. We can reduce the radius to 200 and also can put 100 in this field in order to get the projection closer to the camera. Great, much better now. This was the image without projection, and it is with projection. Well, as you can imagine, there are lots of combinations between matte object, background, VRay dome. Anyway, I hope these 4 situations will help you using VRay domes with HDRI maps.